The Discovery. Grand Admiral Keswick stood before the massive viewing portal that dominated the command deck of the Eternal Dominion, flagship of the Xyrillian Empire. His 4 arms were clasped behind his back, the iridescent scales along his neck flaring slightly with pride as he gazed at the holographic display showing the Empire's latest conquest, the Neruvian system, its 3 habitable planets now bearing the Empire's insignia. 10,000 years of Xyrillian rule that taught the galaxy one immutable truth: resistance was futile. Those who surrendered became subjects. Those who fought became dust. The Xyrillian Empire had never known defeat, had never encountered a species whose technology or tactics could challenge their supremacy. Another system brought to order, Keswick said, his voice a deep rumble that reverberated through the command deck. What is our next target? High Science Officer Vela approached, her slender form gliding across the polished obsidian floor. Unlike Keswick, whose massive frame and armored exoskeleton spoke of countless battles, Vela's appearance reflected her analytical nature, delicate and precise. We've detected signals from an unexplored sector, Grand Admiral, she said, manipulating the holographic display with a wave of her hand. The image shifted to show a spiral galaxy with a yellow star system highlighted near one arm. The signals are primitive, radio waves, mostly, but they indicate a developing civilization. Keswick's eyes narrowed. Technological assessment. Pre-interstellar, Vela replied. They call themselves humans. They've only reached their own satellite and nearby planets. Their most advanced weapons are chemical projectiles and rudimentary nuclear devices. Laughter rippled through the command deck. Such primitives were hardly worth the Empire's attention, but resources were resources, and the Empire's hunger was endless. Send a standard assessment team, Keswick ordered. Classification D3. Pre-spacefaring. Minimal resistance expected. The usual protocol. Stealth observation. Resource evaluation. Preparation for integration. Yes, Grand Admiral. As Vela departed to carry out his orders, Keswick returned his gaze to the holographic display. Another primitive species to add to the Empire's collection, hardly worth his personal attention, but every conquest, no matter how insignificant, added to the glory of the Xyrillian Empire. What Keswick didn't know, what no Xyrillian could possibly suspect, was that appearances could be deceiving, and humanity had learned long ago that survival sometimes depended on keeping one's true nature hidden. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital defense platform, vigilant, watching the stars with a mixture of anticipation and dread. At 43, she had spent most of her career in the United Earth Defense Force, rising through the ranks to command humanity's most advanced battle station. Her close-cropped silver hair and the network of scars along her left temple spoke of decades of service, while her dark eyes reflected the weight of the knowledge she carried. Humanity was not alone, and they had known it for nearly a century. Commander, Lieutenant Park's voice came through her neural implant. Long-range sensors have detected anomalous readings at the edge of the solar system. Pattern matches the signatures we've been tracking. Elena's posture stiffened. They're here earlier than we expected. Alert Defense Command and activate Protocol Chamera. I want all stealth systems at maximum efficiency. Yes, Commander. The deception had begun nearly 80 years earlier when humanity detected the first alien probes entering the solar system. Instead of announcing their discovery to the world, a decision was made at the highest levels. Humanity would hide its true capabilities. Public space programs would continue their slow, methodical exploration using chemical rockets and primitive technology, while in secret, humanity would prepare for the day when they would inevitably meet their cosmic neighbors. That day had arrived. Elena made her way to the command center, a spherical chamber suspended in the heart of the station. Holographic displays showed Earth, the Moon, Mars, and the spread of human settlements throughout the solar system. To any outside observer, humanity appeared to be taking its first tentative steps into space. The International Space Station, lunar habitats, a small Mars research outpost. The reality was far different. Status report, Elena demanded as she took her place at the command console. Lieutenant Park, a young officer whose brilliance had earned her a place on the station despite her age, responded immediately. The alien vessel has bypassed our outer sensor grid using some form of faster-than-light travel. Current position: lunar orbit, dark side. They appear to be using advanced stealth technology, but our quantum sensors are tracking them. They think we can't see them, Elena said, a grim smile touching her lips. Good. Let's keep it that way. What's their configuration? Scout vessel, approximately 300 meters in length, consistent with the designs we extracted from the probe we captured in 2087. Weapon systems appear to be powered down. Elena nodded. This matched their intelligence assessments. First contact would come from scouts, not warriors. They would watch, evaluate, and report back. The real threat would come later. And our special guest. Lieutenant Park's expression tightened. The Defiance is in position, Commander. Captain Singh reports all systems nominal and ready. The Defiance was humanity's greatest secret, a warship unlike anything ever built on Earth. Utilizing technology reverse-engineered from the captured alien probe and enhanced by human innovation, the Defiance represented humanity's best hope for survival in a hostile universe. Tell Captain Singh to maintain position and stealth protocols. We wait and watch. Exploration leader Mervik studied the data streaming across his console aboard the scout ship Silent Observer. The human planet, Earth, they called it, was exactly as their long-range scans had indicated. A blue-green world teeming with life. Its atmosphere rich with oxygen and nitrogen. Its oceans filled with liquid water. A prize beyond measure in a galaxy where habitable worlds were rare treasures. Initial assessment complete, his second-in-command reported. Primitive spacefaring capabilities, limited to their own system. Military technology, nuclear weapons, kinetic projectiles, chemical propellants. No evidence of energy weapons or faster-than-light travel. Mervix nodded, his pale eyes reflecting the blue light of Earth on his view screen. Continue monitoring their communications. I want a full cultural analysis before we report back to the Grand Admiral. The humans were fascinating in their primitive way. They fought among themselves for resources despite living on a world abundant with everything they needed. Their political systems were fragmented, their global cooperation limited to symbolic gestures. They would be easy to conquer, their resistance brief and futile. Sir, his communications officer interrupted. We're detecting an anomalous energy signature near the third planet's largest satellite. Mervix frowned. Source: unknown, sir. It appeared briefly then vanished. Our sensors couldn't identify its composition. Sensor malfunction. Mervix decided after a moment's consideration. Run a diagnostic. We can't report inaccurate data to the Grand Admiral. As the crew carried out his orders, Mervix returned his attention to the view screen. The humans would make excellent subjects for the Empire. Their world would provide abundant resources, their population would serve as labor, and their genetic material would be added to the Empire's vast biological database. All according to protocol. All as it had been done thousands of times before. Captain Arjun Singh stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the alien scout vessel through the ship's quantum imaging system. At 51, Singh was one of Earth's most decorated naval officers, chosen personally by Defense Command to captain humanity's first true warship. The Defiance was a masterpiece of human engineering and alien technology, a hybrid vessel that incorporated the best of both worlds. Its hull was composed of metamaterials that absorbed rather than reflected sensor scans. Its propulsion system utilized principles of quantum mechanics that allowed it to move without conventional thrust, and its weapon systems could target the specific frequency of an enemy vessel's shields, rendering them useless. All of this remained powered down as the Defiance drifted in the shadow of the moon, watching the Watchers. They detected our power signature, Lieutenant Commander Okafor reported from the tactical station. But they dismissed it as a sensor malfunction. Singh nodded, unsurprised. Arrogance. They see what they expect to see, a primitive species taking its first steps into space. That bias will be their undoing. The alien vessel is moving, Captain Okafor reported. They're adjusting orbit to better monitor Earth's communications. Maintain distance and continue passive observation. What's their weapons status? Still powered down, sir. They're not expecting any threat. Singh allowed himself a thin smile. Good. Let's hope their report back home shares that assessment. The longer they underestimate us, the better our chances when the real conflict begins. Singh had no illusions about the future. History had taught humanity a harsh lesson. First contact between civilizations with vastly different levels of technology rarely ended well for the less advanced society. Rather than repeat the mistakes of their own past, humanity had chosen deception as its first line of defense. Captain, his communications officer called out, "We're receiving a priority message from command. The alien vessel has begun transmitting a high-energy signal toward the edge of our solar system." "They're reporting back," Singh said. "Time to move to Phase 2. Alert Commander Reyes and prepare jump coordinates for Mars orbit. If their reinforcements follow standard protocols, that's where they'll arrive." As the Defiance prepared to move, Singh found himself reflecting on the irony of their situation. For decades, humanity had looked to the stars with hope and wonder, dreaming of peaceful first contact with benevolent aliens who would share their knowledge and welcome Earth into a galactic community. Reality had proven far different. The aliens were coming not as friends, but as conquerors, seeing Earth as nothing more than another resource to exploit, its people as subjects to rule. But humanity had a surprise waiting for them, a surprise 80 years in the making. Grand Admiral Keswick reviewed the preliminary report from the Silent Observer with growing interest. The human world was even more resource-rich than initial scans had suggested, with abundant water, rare minerals, and a diverse biosphere. The humans themselves appeared physically unimpressive, but showed potential for labor and scientific study. "Prepare the integration fleet," he ordered. "Standard configuration: 1 battleship, 6 cruisers, support vessels as needed. I want planetary submission within 1 standard rotation." High Science Officer Vela seemed hesitant. "Grand Admiral, there is an anomaly in the scout report. They detected an energy signature they couldn't identify near the human satellite." Keswick dismissed her concern with a wave of his massive hand. "Sensor malfunction, nothing more. These humans barely understand the principles of nuclear fission. They pose no threat to the Empire." "As you say, Grand Admiral, the integration fleet will depart immediately." As preparations began for yet another routine conquest, neither Keswick nor any other Xyrillian could imagine that for the first time in 10,000 years, the Empire was about to encounter something it had never faced before. An enemy that had been preparing for their arrival for nearly a century, an enemy that understood the value of deception, an enemy that had turned the Empire's own arrogance into a weapon against it. Humanity was waiting, and they were ready. The revelation. The Xyrillian integration fleet emerged from hyperspace in a brilliant flash of energy, space itself seeming to tear open as 7 warships materialized in high orbit around Mars. The flagship, Inevitable Conquest, dwarfed its escorts, its hull bristling with weapons designed to eliminate any resistance quickly and efficiently. Fleet Commander Drax stood on the command deck, surveying the red planet below with cold calculation. Mars was just another world to claim, its small human research outpost insignificant in the grand scheme of the Empire's expansion. "Begin standard integration protocol," Drax ordered, his voice echoing across the command deck. "Broadcast the terms of surrender and prepare landing parties." Communications Officer Telix nodded, transmitting the Empire's ultimatum, a message that had been delivered to thousands of worlds across the galaxy. "Surrender all territories and resources to the Xyrillian Empire. Accept status as a protectorate species. Resistance will result in immediate disciplinary action." Inside the Mars Research Outpost, Director John Way received the transmission with carefully concealed anticipation. At 62, Zhang had spent decades preparing for this moment, orchestrating a deception that would change the course of human history. "They're demanding immediate surrender," he announced to his team, maintaining the facade of shock and fear that the Xyrillians would expect. "All channels, send the response we prepared. Request dialogue and time to consult with Earth leadership." The message was transmitted, designed to give the impression of a frightened, primitive civilization facing the superior force. In reality, every word, every hesitation, had been scripted years in advance, all part of humanity's grand deception. As expected, the Xyrillians responded not with words but with a demonstration of power. A precision energy beam lanced down from the lead ship, striking the outpost's external power array. The damage was superficial, designed to frighten rather than destroy. But Zhang made sure the outpost's response included panicked communications and emergency signals. "Excellent," he murmured to his second-in-command. "They're following the predicted pattern. Alert Defense Command. Phase 3 is active." Aboard the UES Defiance, Captain Singh received the confirmation signal from Mars. "They've taken the bait," he announced to his bridge crew. "All hands to battle stations. Prepare for quantum jump." Throughout the massive warship, crew members moved with practiced efficiency, preparing weapon systems, activating defense screens, and bringing the experimental quantum drive online. Unlike conventional engines that pushed against space, the quantum drive created a momentary passage through the underlying fabric of reality itself, allowing the Defiance to travel vast distances almost instantly. "Quantum jump calculated and locked," Lieutenant Commander Okafor reported. "Ready on your command, Captain." Singh took a deep breath, keenly aware that he was about to commit humanity to its first interstellar conflict. There would be no going back after this moment. "Execute jump." The Defiance vanished from its hiding place in a flash of blue-white energy, momentarily existing everywhere and nowhere at once. An instant later, it reappeared directly behind the Xyrillian fleet, its weapons already locked on the nearest enemy vessel. On the command deck of the inevitable conquest, Fleet Commander Drax was reviewing the initial assessment of human defenses when the tactical officer's voice cut through the routine chatter. "Commander, unknown vessel has appeared behind our formation." Drax turned sharply. "Configuration: large warship, design unknown. It doesn't match any known species in our database." The main view screen shifted to show the human vessel, nearly a kilometer in length, with a sleek, predatory design unlike anything in the Xyrillian records. For the first time in his long career, Drax felt a flicker of uncertainty. "Impossible," he muttered. The scout report indicated they had no such technology. "It's human, Commander," the science officer confirmed after analyzing the energy signatures. "But the technology? It's far beyond what they should possess." Drax's uncertainty hardened into determination. One ship, no matter how advanced, couldn't stand against a Xyrillian battle fleet. "Target that vessel and fire all weapons. I want it destroyed immediately." The Xyrillian ships pivoted with impressive coordination, their weapon systems charging in preparation for a devastating combined assault. Energy beams lanced out, crossing the void of space toward the Defiance, each one powerful enough to vaporize mountains. But the human ship moved with impossible grace, executing maneuvers that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It twisted and rolled, accelerating and decelerating without apparent momentum, sliding between the deadly beams as if they were moving in slow motion. "They're evading our fire," the tactical officer reported, unable to keep the shock from his voice. "Their maneuverability exceeds anything in our records." Drax slammed his fist against the command console. "Impossible. No ship that size can move like that. Intensify fire. All weapons." Inside the Defiance, Captain Singh stood calmly at the center of the bridge, directing the massive vessel with the assistance of a neural interface that allowed him to feel the ship as an extension of his own body. The quantum navigation system, linked directly to his thoughts, allowed him to guide the warship with superhuman precision. Phase shift quantum torpedoes armed and ready, Lieutenant Commander Okafor reported. Singh nodded. Target weapons and propulsion systems only. We want to disable, not destroy. This wasn't about annihilation. It was about sending a message. Humanity was powerful, yes, but not needlessly cruel or destructive. They would demonstrate their capabilities while leaving room for diplomacy. Fire. From launch tubes along the Defiance's hull, the torpedoes emerged, simple metallic cylinders trailing blue energy. Their appearance was deceiving. Within each torpedo was a quantum phase shifter that allowed the weapon to partially exist in multiple states of reality simultaneously, making them impossible to intercept with conventional defenses. Fleet Commander Drax watched the approaching torpedoes with contempt. The humans were using physical projectiles. Such weapons hadn't been effective against Xyrillian shields for thousands of years. Ignore those primitive missiles, he ordered. Continue targeting their ship. His tactical officer hesitated. Sir, these don't match any known torpedo design. They're emitting some kind of quantum field. Before he could finish, the torpedoes struck their targets. Instead of exploding against the Xyrillian shields, they phased partially out of conventional reality, passing through the energy barriers as if they weren't there. When they rematerialized, they were inside the shields, detonating with precision against weapon emplacements and engine arrays. 3 Xyrillian cruisers suddenly went dark, their main power systems failing simultaneously. A 4th spun out of formation, its propulsion systems damaged beyond immediate repair. For the first time in 10,000 years of Xyrillian conquest, an enemy had drawn first blood. Drax stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Half his fleet disabled in a single attack, by weapons that shouldn't exist, used by a species that should have been helpless before the Empire's might. How? He demanded, his voice barely above a whisper. How is this possible? On Earth, in the underground command center of the United Earth Defense Force, General Aisha Kazemi watched the battle unfolding near Mars with grim satisfaction. At 73, she had devoted her entire life to preparing humanity for this moment, overseeing the development of technologies and strategies designed specifically to counter the threat they had anticipated for decades. The Defiance has disabled 4 enemy vessels, her aide reported. Minimal damage sustained. The Xyrillians appear to be in disarray. Activate the rest of the fleet, Kazeni ordered. It's time to show them what humanity is truly capable of. Throughout the solar system, hidden bases came to life. From beneath the surface of Io, camouflaged among the asteroid belt, concealed in the clouds of Venus, and emerging from secret underwater facilities on Earth, humanity's true defense force revealed itself, not the handful of primitive spacecraft the Xyrillians had observed, but a fleet of warships incorporating the same advanced technology as the Defiance. 37 vessels in total, each designed for a specific role in humanity's defense strategy, each a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Open a channel to the Xyrillian flagship, Kazemi commanded. It's time to negotiate from a position of strength. Fleet Commander Drax was frantically organizing what remained of his fleet when a communication request flashed on his screen. To his shock, it was coming simultaneously from the human warship and from dozens of new vessels that had suddenly appeared throughout the solar system. With no other option, he accepted the transmission. The holographic display activated, showing a human female with dark skin and silver hair, her uniform adorned with symbols of rank that Drax couldn't interpret. This is General Aisha Kazemi of the United Earth Defense Force, she began, her voice steady and authoritative. Your unprovoked attack on our Mars research outpost constitutes an act of war against humanity. However, we are prepared to accept your immediate surrender and withdrawal from our solar system. Drax could hardly believe what he was hearing. These primitives, these humans who should have been cowering in fear, were demanding his surrender. This is impossible, he finally managed to say. Your species is pre-spacefaring. Our intelligence. Your intelligence was exactly what we wanted you to see, Kazemi interrupted. For 80 years, we have known of your empire's existence. For 80 years, We have prepared for this day, developing technologies specifically designed to counter your capabilities while presenting a facade of primitive development to your observers. Drax's mind reeled as the implications became clear. The Xyrillian Empire, in all its 10,000 years of conquest, had never encountered a species that had hidden its true nature so effectively, that had turned the Empire's own arrogance into a weapon against it. Why? He asked. Why the deception? Kazemi's expression hardened. Because history has taught us that when technologically advanced civilizations encounter less developed ones, the result is rarely beneficial for the latter. We chose not to repeat the mistakes of our own past, or to become victims of yours. She leaned forward, her eyes boring into Drax even across the vast distance of space. You have two options, Commander. Withdraw from our system and inform your empire that Earth is not to be approached again, or face the complete destruction of your remaining vessels. The choice is yours. 3 days later, Grand Admiral Keswick stood before the Imperial Council, his massive frame unusually tense as he delivered the most extraordinary report of his career. The integration fleet has returned from the human system, he began, his voice subdued. 4 vessels lost, 3 severely damaged. Fleet Commander Drax reports that the humans possess technology far beyond our initial assessment, including quantum phase weaponry, advanced stealth systems, and faster-than-light capabilities that may exceed our own. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the council chamber. For 10,000 years, the Xyrillian Empire had expanded without serious opposition. The idea of a pre-spacefaring civilization suddenly revealing itself to be a technological equal, or even superior, was beyond comprehension. How is this possible? Demanded Supreme Counselor Vex, the eldest and most powerful member of the Imperial leadership. Our intelligence was deliberately misled, Keswick finished. The humans maintained a facade of primitive development while secretly preparing for our arrival. They have been aware of our existence for decades, studying our technology from probes we sent to their system. The implications were staggering. If the humans could deceive the Empire so thoroughly, what other species might be hiding their true capabilities? What other potential conquests might turn into disasters? What are your recommendations, Grand Admiral? Vex asked after a long silence. Keswick had spent his entire career conquering worlds for the Empire. Never before had he suggested retreat or accommodation, but he was also a pragmatist, and the evidence was clear. I recommend a non-aggression pact with the humans, he said finally. They have expressed willingness to establish diplomatic relations, but have made it clear that any further military action against their system will be met with overwhelming force. As the Council debated this unprecedented recommendation, Keswick found himself reflecting on the lessons of this encounter. For 10,000 years, the Xyrillian Empire had relied on superior technology and the element of surprise to dominate the galaxy. Now they had encountered a species that had turned those very tactics against them. Perhaps it was time for the Empire to reconsider its approach to galactic relations. Perhaps conquest wasn't the only path to prosperity and security. Perhaps in the humans, they had found not just an adversary but a potential equal, a species that might force the Xyrillians to evolve beyond their ancient patterns of dominance and subjugation. 1 year later, Commander Elena Rice stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed diplomatic station orbiting neutral space between Earth and Xyrillian territory. Beside her stood Mervix, formerly of the scout ship Silent Observer, now appointed as the Empire's first diplomatic envoy to humanity. Your deception was impressive, Mervix admitted, his pale eyes reflecting the stars beyond the viewport. In 10,000 years, no one has ever managed to surprise the Empire so thoroughly. Belina allowed herself a small smile. Necessity breeds innovation. We saw what happened to species that weren't prepared for first contact with the Empire. And now we have a chance to establish something new, Elena replied. Not conquest, not subjugation, but genuine cooperation between equals. As they stood together, watching the stars that had once seemed to promise only threat and conflict, Both human and Xyrillian found themselves contemplating a future neither had imagined possible, a future where deception gave way to understanding, where ancient patterns of dominance and resistance might finally be broken. The galaxy was changing, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the Xyrillian Empire was changing with it, not by choice, but by necessity. They had believed themselves the undisputed rulers of space until they encountered a human battleship and discovered that appearances could be deceiving, that true strength lay not in dominance but in adaptability. And in that discovery, perhaps, lay hope for a new kind of future for all species among the stars.